There's a mansion on the edge of the city that no one talks about, guarded by men whose eyes never blink, and cameras that follow every step you take. Inside, the richest man in the world hides a secret so dangerous, no one dares speak of it. But one man did, and what he discovered could destroy everything. Ethan Vale was a journalist, the kind who chased stories others were too scared to touch. He'd reported on corruption, on criminals who hid behind power, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to uncover. One night, he received a message that would change everything: the truth about Adrian Cross will ruin him, but only if you survive knowing it. The sender was anonymous. The warning was clear. And still, he couldn't resist. Cross was a billionaire, untouchable, a man whose influence spread through every corner of the city. He smiled in magazines, donated to charities, appeared on talk shows, and yet there were whispers, rumors of something darker, something hidden behind the gold and glass. Ethan didn't care about rumors. He needed proof. He started digging. Every lead was a trap, every contact vanished without a trace. But one night, a source handed him a key. Not a literal key, but an address and a warning: if you go there, you may not come back. The mansion loomed at the end of a dark road. He felt a chill as he approached. Every instinct screamed for him to turn back, but he didn't. Inside, the air was sterile and cold, too quiet, like the house itself was watching him. Cameras blinked from every corner, sensors that tracked his movements. As he moved deeper, he noticed the guards, men who didn't seem entirely human, trained to anticipate his every step. And then he saw it, a door marked Project Eden. Behind it, he found machines that defied belief. He realized the truth: Cross was running experiments to erase memories, to rewrite lives, to give the elite the power to hide any crime, any shame, any secret. Ethan's stomach turned. This wasn't just illegal. It was monstrous. And the people inside, the ones hooked into the machines, some were missing, others walked out blank, their minds wiped clean of everything that made them human. And then he saw a face he knew, someone he thought was gone. Someone he had loved. Someone Cross had destroyed. His hands shook as he took out his camera. Every second could be his last. The machines whirred, the lights flickered, and somewhere deep inside, he heard a voice: "We know you're here." Panic surged. He tried to leave, but the mansion seemed alive. Doors locked, corridors twisted. He stumbled through hallways that seemed to stretch on forever, realizing this place wasn't just a house, it was a fortress, a labyrinth designed to trap anyone who got too close. Somehow, he found a hidden room filled with monitors. Every screen showed someone's life: politicians, businessmen, celebrities, all controlled by Cross. Every secret, every crime, every betrayal meticulously recorded. And then it hit him: Cross didn't just want money. He wanted control over everyone. He was untouchable because he knew everything about everyone. And now, Ethan held evidence that could ruin him. A sudden noise. Guards were closing in. Heart hammering, he ran, narrowly avoiding capture. He thought he was free, but the mansion had one last trick. A tunnel, barely wide enough to crawl through, leading to the outside world. Crawling through darkness, bruised and bleeding, he emerged into the night. But even as he ran, he felt the weight of what he'd seen, the danger he'd survived, and the knowledge that Cross could reach him anywhere. Ethan reached his apartment, breathless, heart still racing, and reviewed the footage. But something was wrong. One of the videos, one scene, wasn't supposed to be there. A shadowy figure in the corner, watching him. And he realized the horrifying truth: Cross had followed him. He always did. Ethan's hands shook as he uploaded the footage to the cloud, knowing that the moment he did, his life would change forever. There was no turning back. The truth was out, and the world might never be the same. But one question lingered, colder than the night itself: how do you fight a man who knows everything about everyone? And if he can erase memories, rewrite lives, and control the powerful, how do you survive against someone who is not just rich or influential, but unstoppable? The mansion no longer stood at the edge of the city. Some said it exploded. Others whispered it disappeared. But Ethan knew the truth. Secrets like crosses never stay buried. And some truths, once uncovered, can never be forgotten. The line between survival and destruction had blurred, and every shadow, every whisper, every choice could mean the difference between life and oblivion. He didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Not with the knowledge of what was possible, of what humans could do when unchecked power met forbidden technology. And as the city continued to sleep, unaware of the danger lurking in the highest towers and the darkest corners, Ethan understood one terrifying fact: some stories are meant to be told. But some are meant to haunt you forever. Ethan thought he had escaped Adrian Cross, but he was wrong. Freedom, he realized, was an illusion. The moment he uploaded the footage, he became a target, not just of Cross, but of everything Cross controlled. And the deeper Ethan looked into the web, the more he understood, there was no limit to what Cross could do, no corner of the world untouched by his influence. It started with small things. Emails disappearing, phone calls dropping, people he trusted suddenly turning cold, distant. Then came the warnings, subtle at first. A shadow outside his window, a black car parked across the street for hours. And always, that feeling, of being watched, of being hunted. Ethan knew he had to act fast. He reached out to those he thought were allies, journalists, hackers, former agents, but one by one, they vanished. Some were found days later, broken and terrified, unable to speak. Others were never seen again. Cross had eyes everywhere, and Ethan realized he was alone. Completely. Then came the message. No sender, no return address. Just 4 words flashing on his screen: "We see you." It was a challenge, a warning, and an invitation all at once. Ethan's heart raced. Cross wasn't just playing defense, he was playing a game, a deadly game, and Ethan had just stepped onto the board. Ethan's next move was desperate. He began retracing the steps he had taken inside the mansion, looking for weaknesses, for someone, anything, who might help him strike back. And then he found it, a file buried deep in the cloud storage, a digital blueprint of Project Eden itself. Machines, codes, personnel, locations, all mapped with horrifying precision. And at the very center, a single line that made him pause: failsafe, subject 001, Adrian Cross. Cross, Ethan realized, was not immortal. But to reach him, Ethan would have to enter the heart of the fortress again, confront the technology, the guards, and Cross himself. And this time, there would be no tunnels to escape through, no blind luck to save him. He started preparing. Days blurred together as he trained, hacked, and planned. Every detail mattered. Every second counted. He knew the mansion had changed since his last visit: more security, more surveillance, more deadly traps. And yet, the knowledge in his hands gave him a dangerous hope. Finally, the night came. He moved silently through the city, avoiding cameras, sensors, and patrols. The mansion rose before him like a dark monolith, more intimidating than ever. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears, every instinct screaming to run, but he pushed forward. This was no longer a story, it was survival. And perhaps, justice. Inside, the mansion was a maze of steel and glass, wires humming with electricity, machines that seemed alive. Ethan moved through the corridors, guided by memory and instinct, but the place was different. Doors that once led to safety now opened to emptiness, hallways twisted as if the mansion itself was reshaping, trying to trap him. And then he saw them, the victims of Project Eden. People connected to machines, their eyes vacant, their movements stiff, their memories stolen. Some reached out to him, silent pleas in their gaze. Ethan's stomach churned. Each one was a warning. Each one was a promise of what Cross could do. Finally, he found the core room. Machines lined the walls, glowing with an unnatural light, code scrolling faster than he could comprehend. And there, in the center, was Cross. Calm. Smiling. Waiting. "You should have stayed away," Cross said, voice like silk and steel. "But you're here. And now, we play." Ethan's hands shook, but he raised the device that held the blueprint, the failsafe, the evidence. Every moment from the last few days, the fear, the planning, the loss, culminated in this instant. Cross stepped closer, confident, untouchable. And yet, Ethan could see a flicker in his eyes, something human. Something vulnerable. The next minutes felt like hours. Codes, machines, threats, and strategy collided in a deadly dance. Every step Ethan took could trigger alarms, every breath could cost him his life. But he pressed on. The failsafe, the key to undoing everything, rested just within reach. And then, a choice. Ethan could activate the failsafe, destroy Project Eden, and risk everything, including his life and the lives of the victims, or retreat, survive, and expose the story, knowing Cross would strike back, harder, smarter. The mansion seemed to hold its breath. The world outside was unaware, the clock ticking relentlessly. Ethan's hand hovered over the control panel, mind racing, heart pounding, and for a moment, time itself felt suspended. Because the truth, he realized, was far more terrifying than he had imagined. The real danger wasn't Cross. It was the idea of power unchecked, of secrets so absolute that even the bravest couldn't fight them. And in that silence, Ethan understood something no one else would ever know: survival was just the beginning. The real story, the one the world might never hear, was only starting. And as he pressed forward, ready to make the choice that could destroy everything, or nothing, he knew one thing for certain: the mansion, the machines, and the man named Adrian Cross were not just his past. They were his future, and nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan's fingers hovered over the control panel, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Every nerve in his body screamed, every memory of loss, betrayal, and fear pushing him forward. The failsafe wasn't just a tool, it was a reckoning. One press, and Project Eden would collapse, the victims freed, Adrian Cross's empire shattered. But one misstep, and everything, his life, theirs, the fragile hope of justice, would end in an instant. Cross watched him, smiling faintly, like a predator amused by the struggle of its prey. "You can't imagine what you're tampering with," he said. "This isn't just power, it's control. It's evolution. And you," he leaned closer, "you're just a footnote in it." Ethan's heart pounded. Memories of the people trapped, the lives stolen, the terror he'd felt in the mansion, surged through him. He thought of every step that had brought him here, every narrow escape, every betrayal, every small victory. And for a single, terrifying moment, he wondered if he was ready. Then he acted. The failsafe activated, sending blinding pulses of light and code through the systems. Alarms shrieked. Machines groaned. Cross lunged, but it was too late. The infrastructure of Project Eden began to collapse, wires sparking, screens shattering, chains of control breaking. People connected to the machines gasped, awakened, some falling to their knees, free but broken, haunted. Cross screamed, not a shout of pain, but rage, disbelief, fury at the unraveling of everything he had built. He reached for Ethan, hands outstretched, but the systems that had given him godlike control now betrayed him. The mansion shook, the lights flickered, and for a moment, the man who had seemed untouchable was just another mortal, fighting a battle he could no longer win. Ethan ran, heart hammering, the chaos of collapse behind him. Hallways twisted, doors jammed, and the mansion itself seemed to fight back, trying to swallow him, to punish him for defiance. But he pressed on, driven by adrenaline and resolve, until finally, he burst into the night air. Outside, the world was calm, oblivious to the catastrophe that had just unfolded. The black cars were gone, the shadows dispersed. For the first time in days, Ethan breathed freely. The evidence of Project Eden, the blueprints, the logs, the fail-safe recordings, was secure, stored in a place even Cross could not reach. And yet, peace was fleeting. Even in victory, Ethan knew the truth. Cross's reach had been vast, and while the mansion fell, the ideas, the secrets, the ambition, those could survive. Adrian Cross was dangerous, yes, but the real threat wasn't a single man. It was the power, unchecked, the human hunger for control, the shadows that could rise anywhere. Ethan walked into the city, blending into the crowd, carrying the weight of what he'd uncovered. Journalists, authorities, the world, they might never understand what he had done, or what they had narrowly avoided. And as he looked at the faces around him, oblivious, unaware, he felt a chill run down his spine. Because the question lingered, the one that no one dared ask aloud: if a man like Adrian Cross could exist, and thrive, how many others were out there, waiting in silence, shaping a world we thought we controlled? Ethan's victory was complete, yet incomplete. The fight was over, but the war for truth, for freedom, for control, was far from finished. And somewhere, in the shadows, a new story was already beginning.